Alright, so recently Magomed Ankalaev beat Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight title, and I honestly think he has a lot of potential. I can definitely see him becoming the second greatest light heavyweight of all time, next to Jon Jones, with just a couple more title defenses. But let me know how far you think Magomed Ankalaev will go, and while you're down there, I'd appreciate if you could like, subscribe. I think we're really close to 570 subs. Anyway, let me get into it. Now, Ankalaev is coming off an almost perfect performance against Alex Pereira. He didn't really dominate him or anything, but it was a very clean performance. He outstruck him, he outgrappled him, and also he didn't really take any damage either. But it was a very close fight on the scorecard, so I'm assuming the next fight will be Alex Pereira, considering Dana White even said he'll probably do this rematch next. But in my opinion, I don't think they should do this rematch next. I think they should give Pereira at least one more fight before he fights Ankalaev again. Not because I think Alex Pereira needs to work his way up back to the top or anything. I mean, he's been the face of the UFC for quite a while now. He definitely deserves an immediate title shot, but I think he needs to just regain his confidence. And on top of that, if Alex Pereira is coming off a win, it's going to be so much easier to sell the rematch, okay? Because Alex Pereira didn't really look himself against Magomed Ankalaev. Now, whether that was because Ankalaev shut him down or because he didn't train enough, it doesn't really matter because his last performance is very lackluster. So I think the UFC should give him at least one more fight before he fights Magomed Ankalaev again, just because if he gets a KO, it would drive so much more hype to the rematch. But beating Pereira is a pretty good start to his title reign, considering Alex Pereira is considered the third greatest light heavyweight of all time. So Magomed Ankalaev beating Alex Pereira definitely puts him up there in the top 4 spot at least, and surpassing Daniel Cormier and Alex Pereira honestly should not be too hard for Magomed Ankalaev. Again, for Alex Pereira at least, it should be very easy because he's already beat Alex Pereira, and all he really needs to surpass Pereira is just couple more title defenses, and that's it, because that's the only thing he's really missing to go higher on that GOAT status at light heavyweight, okay? Because if he beats Alex Pereira again, I think that title defense is enough to probably put him above Alex Pereira, considering their resumes are basically like neck and neck, okay? Alex Pereira's resume at light heavyweight at least is Jan Blachowicz, Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree, and Yuri Prochazka. Now they both kind of beat Jan Blachowicz because Alex Pereira beat him like definitively, but it was a split decision, and then Magomed Ankalaev went to a draw with him. But most people did think that Magomed Ankalaev won that fight, so they're basically equal there. But I'll give the nod to Alex Pereira since he actually did beat Jan Blachowicz, but they both kind of beat Jan Blachowicz, so I'm going to count it as basically the same thing. And then Khalil Roundtree, I mean, that's not really a great win, but then with Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, you know, these are guys that Ankalaev are probably going to fight soon. Maybe not Jamal Hill, he might be on the downturn, but with Yuri Prochazka, he's probably getting a title shot very soon. So if Ankalaev is able to beat Yuri Prochazka, they're also going to be equal there. And then Jamal Hill, I think he's just as good as a lot of Ankalaev's other very good wins, such as like Rakic and stuff. I think they're basically equal there. So I think Pereira and Ankalaev are equal in terms of resume. I think Ankalaev just needs the title defenses to surpass him. And then on top of that, obviously he beat Alex Pereira too. So I think that resume there is basically equal. But I also think his case for surpassing Daniel Cormier is pretty strong as well, because as good as Daniel Cormier was, he only had like 3 title defenses, which I think Ankalaev probably could get very easily depending on who he fights. Again, his lineup is looking like Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, and then maybe like Carlos Ulberg or Jan Blachowicz, which I think is a pretty easy lineup of title defenses for Magomed Ankalaev, especially because Daniel Cormier's title defenses weren't exactly that great. It was Rumble Johnson, Alexander Gustafsson, and Volkan Oezdemir, which I think is a pretty beatable title defense lineup, which I think leaves him in a pretty good place in the GOAT conversation at light heavyweight, considering 3 or 4 title defenses is pretty achievable for Magomed Ankalaev, okay? The guy fights like once every year, and considering the guy is 32 years old, I think he should be able to fit in like 3 or 4 title defenses before he's 35 and he's past his prime and, you know, at risk of losing. Obviously, I hope he doesn't fight once every year as a champion, because that would genuinely be terrible. But, you know, if he does, it's still very possible for him to become the second greatest, right below Jon Jones, okay? Jon Jones is absolutely unbeatable, okay? I don't really think Magomed Ankalaev, unless this guy like somehow gets like 20 title defenses in 4 years, that is the only way he can really surpass Jon Jones, and that's never going to happen, okay? Because Jones just has an insane amount of title wins, and on top of that, his resume is just insane, okay? I know I sound like Dana White right now, but I really don't think Magomed Ankalaev can surpass Jon Jones, unless you're just one of the people that believe that if you use PEDs at all, you cannot be in the GOAT conversation. That's the only way Magomed Ankalaev can really be like the light heavyweight GOAT. But outside of that, I don't really see him surpassing Jon Jones anytime soon. But outside of Pereira for his next fights, I think Yuri Prochazka is probably going to be his next fight, because Yuri Prochazka had a very impressive performance against Jamal Hill at UFC 311. So I think most likely they'll give him the shot next, because the reason a lot of people have been calling for the Alex Pereira rematch is just because there's really no one else for Magomed Ankalaev, and I think Yuri Prohaska is probably the most deserving out of everyone outside of Pereira. Like, there's literally no one else who has the case for a title shot. I mean, the next most deserving guy is like maybe Carlos Ulberg if he beats Jan Blachowicz. But until then, I think Yuri Prohaska is the clear like next guy for the title, okay? And I think that's a fairly easy fight for Magomed Ankalaev. I definitely think it's winnable for both people. I think Yuri Prohaska definitely has a chance of like fluking a KO against Magomed Ankalaev. Maybe not like a fluke, but Yuri Prohaska's striking looked really, really good against Jamal Hill. Like, I definitely could see him knocking out Ankalaev just because Ankalaev doesn't know how to adjust to Yuri Prohaska's style. But I think Ankalaev should be able to deal with Yuri Prohaska. I mean, Yuri Prohaska definitely leaves his chin open quite a lot. Even though his head movement has gotten a lot better, I do think Ankalaev will be able to land on him regardless. And on top of that, Yuri Prohaska's grappling isn't exactly like crazy or anything, so I think Ankalaev might be able to take him down and do something, even though he wasn't really able to against Pereira. But at the same time, I think with Pereira, Ankalaev just didn't really take great shots, so maybe he could take Yuri Prohaska if he really tried. So I think he would probably beat Yuri Prohaska, but the thing is, outside of that, there is really no one else for him to fight. Like, literally, if you look at the rankings, there's no one even like coming up either. Like, outside of Carlos Ulberg, you have like Azamat Mirzakhanov as the next like biggest prospect, okay? I don't think Bogdan Guskov is gonna really get far, if I'm being honest. I mean, the guy's getting taken down by some random can from like LFA who came in on like 1 day notice, bro. I don't think he's gonna be able to like beat the top 5 guys. So apart from that, you have Azamat Mirzakhanov, and that guy literally never fights, okay? So you basically only have Carlos Ulberg coming up, and then you have like Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prohaska, Jamal Hill, like the big 3 or big 4. These guys are just going to carry on fighting for the title over and over again. Maybe Khalil Roundtree will get in there as well, but I don't know if he'll get past guys like Jan Blachowicz. So who really knows what's next for Magomed Ankalaev after like Yuri and Alex? Like, literally those are the only guys, okay? Now, whether Jan wins or Ulberg wins, I think Ulberg is a fairly easy test for Magomed Ankalaev too. I mean, Ulberg doesn't really have the craziest striking. He's a very good striker, obviously, but he just doesn't have a lot of power or anything, you know? Apart from the one knockout over Alonzo Menefield where the guy literally ran into the left hook, like, he doesn't really have the craziest ability on the feet. And Jan Blachowicz, again, Ankalaev like kind of beat him the first time, and a lot of people thought he did beat him the first time. And Jan Blachowicz is only getting older, and you know, he's not really getting any better, so I think Ankalaev will probably be able to beat him that time as well. But I think everyone's kind of being a bit unfair to Magomed Ankalaev. I honestly think he's going to be a very good champ, even though he's very inactive. I hope he's going to be a bit more active now he has the belt, but he's a very technical guy and he does have decent fights. I don't know why everyone pretends like Magomed Ankalaev, he's so boring. This guy, oh my god, Magomed Ankalaev is worse than Bilal and Marab. Like, I'm sorry, have you ever watched the Magomed Ankalaev? I genuinely don't know how you could come to that conclusion, okay? The Jan Blachowicz fight, fine, maybe that wasn't the greatest fight, but the fight with Rakic, that was a decent fight. The fight with Pereira was a very decent fight as well. Literally KO'd Johnny Walker, KO'd Anthony Smith. He has so many KOs as well that are just like insane. Like his KO over Ian Kutalaba. He has so many like sick KOs. I think he has like a front kick KO as well. I have no idea how people come to the conclusion that Magomed Ankalaev is boring. It actually makes no sense to me. So I'm actually pretty excited to have him as champ. I think he could get a couple knockouts just because the people who he's fighting, their like defense is kind of a bit questionable, you know. I don't think he'll knock out Alex, but I think Yuri and Jamal and all those guys, I think they definitely have a decent chance of getting like TKO'd by Ankalaev. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. I'm sorry my mic, like the volume kept changing so much. It's just because I was like messing around with the settings. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe. Alright. Finna take that lounge truck to Japan. I like, get your bands up. Yes, she can.